Missing a hand, she was hopeless until he gave her a bionic gift, Shattered Symphony. The crystalline spires of Nebulon 7's music district caught the twin sun's light, fracturing it into prismatic rainbows that danced across Lyra's purple skin. She walked with her head down, her empty sleeve pinned carefully to her side, trying to blend into the shadows between buildings. Once she had commanded these very streets, her name emblazoned on concert halls, her music flowing through the air like liquid starlight. That was before the accident. Lyra. Wait. The voice of Nari, her former orchestral partner, cut through the ambient hum of the city. Lyra slowed but didn't turn. She couldn't bear the pity she knew would be in Nari's eyes. "The conservatory asked about you again," Nari said, catching up. "Director Ven said your position is filled, I'm sure," Lyra interrupted, finally turning. "As it should be." Nari's four eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of distress among the Nebulonians. "But your compositions without performance are just symbols on a page," Lyra said, her voice hardening to mask the pain. She flexed her remaining hand, feeling the phantom twinge where her other should be. "I can hear the music, Nari, I just can't express it anymore." Back in her apartment, Lyra stood before the crystal harp that dominated her living space. The instrument, carved from a single piece of resonant Nebulon crystal, required two hands to play, one to press the melody keys, one to control the harmonic resonators. It had been her voice, her soul. Now it stood silent, gathering dust. She ran her fingers over the cool surface, feeling the instrument respond even to this casual touch, humming with potential music. A tear slid down her cheek, trailing luminescent purple in the fading light. Her communication panel chimed, interrupting her moment of grief. The face that appeared was unfamiliar. A human with warm brown skin and eyes that seemed to catch every detail. Lyra Vox? The human's translator rendered his words into perfect Nebulonian. "My name is Theo Reyes, biomedical engineer from Earth's Interstellar Research Division. I'm studying comparative physiologies, and your case was flagged in our database." Lyra stiffened. "My case? I'm not a research subject." "Of course not," Theo said quickly. "But your particular neural structure and the nature of your injury present a unique opportunity. I've been developing adaptive neural prosthetics and—" "I've seen prosthetics," Lyra interrupted. "They don't work for crystal harpists. The neural feedback isn't precise enough." "Traditional ones, no," Theo agreed, leaning closer to the screen. "But what if I told you I've developed something that interprets intention rather than just movement? Something that could read the music in your mind and translate it directly to your instrument?" Despite herself, Lyra felt a flicker of something she had thought long extinguished. Hope. "Why would you help me?" she asked, suspicion coloring her tone. Theo's smile was gentle. "Because where I come from, we believe that art is sacred, and silencing an artist is a tragedy that transcends species." Lyra stared at the human, searching for deceit but finding only earnest determination. The crystal harp hummed behind her as if sensing a change in the air. "When can we start?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Calibration." The research lab Theo had established in Nebulon 7's science district was a curious blend of Earth technology and local accommodations. Holographic displays floated alongside ancient Nebulonian crystalline computational arrays, creating a space that felt both alien and familiar to Lyra as she entered. "The neural mapping will take about an hour," Theo explained, arranging a semicircle of sensors around a reclined chair. His movements were precise but gentle, each gesture revealing years of careful work with delicate equipment. "It won't hurt, but you might feel a slight tingling as we map your neural pathways." Lyra sat stiffly, her posture betraying her nervousness. "Will I need to think about playing?" Theo nodded, adjusting the final sensor. "Ideally, yes. Imagine performing your favorite piece. The sensors will read both your conscious intentions and the subconscious neural patterns that emerged from years of practice." As the mapping began, Lyra closed her eyes and summoned the memory of astral convergence, the composition that had first brought her acclaim. In her mind, her fingers danced across the crystal keys, feeling the vibrations rise through her arms and into her chest. The phantom sensation of her missing hand was so vivid it brought tears to her eyes. "That's extraordinary," Theo whispered, watching the neural patterns illuminate the displays. "Your brain is still sending signals to your missing hand. The pathways are fully intact. It's called phantom limb, Lyra said, eyes still closed. All amputees experience it. Not like this, Theo countered, moving closer to the display. Your neural architecture is creating complete motor sequences. It's as if your brain refuses to accept that the hand is gone. The session continued, with Theo occasionally asking Lyra to imagine different musical passages. By the end, a complete three-dimensional model of her neural patterns hung in the air between them, glowing with activity. I've never seen anything so beautiful, Theo said, studying the patterns. His admiration was evident, not clinical, but genuine appreciation. Your mind is like a symphony itself. For the first time in months, Lyra felt a flush of pride rather than shame. 3 days later, Theo presented the prototype, a delicate structure of responsive metal and synthetic neural interfaces that gleamed in the lab's soft light. It's not just a replacement, he explained as Lyra examined it. It's an extension. The prosthetic will learn from you, adapting to your unique playing style. He hesitated. May I? At Lyra's nod, Theo carefully fitted the prosthetic to her residual limb. The neural interfaces activated with a soft hum, and Lyra gasped as sensation flooded back, not exactly like her original hand, but present and responsive. Try to move the index finger, Theo suggested. Lyra focused, and the prosthetic finger twitched, then curled slowly. A small sound escaped her, halfway between a laugh and a sob. It will take practice, Theo cautioned, but his eyes were bright with shared triumph. Neural pathways need time to adapt. Time is something I have plenty of, Lyra replied, watching in wonder as she opened and closed her new hand. Their eyes met over the gleaming prosthetic, and something unspoken passed between them. A connection forged in this moment of restoration. Outside, the twin suns of Nebulon 7 began to set, casting long shadows through the lab windows. But inside, a new light had kindled, fragile still but growing stronger with each beat of Lyra's heart. Harmonic adjustments, again, Lyra demanded, frustration evident in her voice. The practice room Theo had set up adjacent to his lab was littered with failed attempts, simple melody crystals that had shattered under her still unpredictable control. Maybe we should rest, Theo suggested, running diagnostic scans on the prosthetic. Your neural pathways are showing signs of fatigue. I don't need rest, Lyra insisted, her luminescent eyes flashing. I need precision. The resonator control is still a microsecond delayed. Theo sighed but made the adjustment. For 3 weeks they had worked together daily, refining the connection between Lyra's mind and her new hand. The prosthetic was remarkable, responding to her neural commands with increasing accuracy. But crystal harps required perfection. The slightest miscalibration could shatter the delicate crystalline structures. Try once more, he said. Then we break for sustenance, non-negotiable. Lyra nodded reluctantly and positioned herself before a simple practice harp. Her original instrument remained untouched in her apartment. Neither of them had suggested using it yet. She placed her natural hand on the melody keys and her prosthetic on the resonator controls. Closing her eyes, she began. The notes emerged hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence, a simple Nebulonian lullaby that children learned in their earliest music classes. The crystal vibrated perfectly, the resonance building as Lyra's prosthetic hand made minute adjustments with newfound precision. The melody completed without a single flaw. You did it, Theo exclaimed, his face breaking into a wide smile. Lyra stared at her hands, one flesh, one metal, now working in harmony. We did it, she corrected softly, later, sharing a meal of synthesized Earth cuisine that Theo had programmed into the lab's food station. They talked about music rather than prosthetics or neural mappings. On Earth, we have instruments called violins, Theo explained, demonstrating the playing motion. The musician holds it between their chin and shoulder, draws a bow across strings with one hand while pressing the strings with the other. It sounds intimate, Lyra observed, watching his hands with fascination. Our instruments rarely touch the body directly. We believe the space between performer and instrument is where the magic happens. The air itself becomes part of the music. Theo's eyes lingered on her face. That's beautiful. Maybe that's why your neural patterns are so complex. You're not just playing the harp. You're orchestrating the space around it. Something shifted in that moment, their conversation moving from professional to personal. Lyra found herself asking about Theo's home, his family, what had brought him across the stars to Nebulon 7. In turn, she shared stories of her childhood, her rise through the conservatory, the night of her first solo performance. Neither mentioned the accident. As the night deepened, Lyra demonstrated traditional Nebulonian musical notations, intricate patterns that spiraled rather than running in straight lines. Theo leaned close, his shoulder brushing hers as he traced the patterns with his finger. "It's like your music exists in 3 dimensions," he murmured. 4. Lyra corrected, her voice soft. "The 4th is time." She looked up to find his face inches from hers, his expression one of undisguised admiration. For a heartbeat, they remained suspended in that moment, 2 beings from different worlds, connected by understanding and shared purpose. Then, with gentle hesitation, Theo reached out and placed his hand over her prosthetic one. "Tomorrow," he said, "I think you'll be ready for your crystal harp." Resonant frequencies. The walk to Lyra's apartment felt different with Theo beside her. The stares from passers-by, once filled with pity, now held curiosity as they noticed her prosthetic hand and the human who accompanied her. Nebulon 7 rarely saw humans outside the diplomatic quarter, and never in the arts district. "They're wondering why I'm here," Theo remarked quietly. "Let them wonder," Lyra replied, her voice stronger than it had been in months. "Soon they'll have their answer." Her apartment was bathed in the rose-gold light of evening when they arrived. The crystal harp stood in its place of honor, catching the light and refracting it across the walls in patterns that seemed to move with a life of their own. "It's magnificent," Theo breathed, approaching the instrument with reverent steps. "I've never seen anything like it." Lyra watched him, seeing her beloved instrument through new eyes. It was carved from a single crystal found in the deep caves of Nebulon's northern continent. The resonance patterns were already present in the raw crystal. The carver simply revealed them. Theo turned to her, his expression serious. "Are you ready?" Lyra approached the harp, positioning herself before it. The familiarity of the stance sent a wave of emotion through her: fear, longing, hope. She placed her natural hand on the melody keys, feeling the crystal respond to her touch with a faint hum of recognition. Then, slowly, she raised her prosthetic hand to the resonator controls. "I'm afraid," she admitted, her voice barely audible. Theo stepped close behind her, his warmth a steadying presence. "I'm right here," he said. "Trust what we've built together." Lyra closed her eyes and began to play. The first notes were tentative, a simple sequence to test the response. The crystal sang, clear and true. Emboldened, she attempted a more complex passage, her prosthetic hand making the minute adjustments needed to maintain perfect resonance. The music built, flowing from her mind through both hands into the crystal, filling the apartment with sound that seemed to transcend the physical space. Lyra lost herself in the performance, her body remembering what her conscious mind had feared was lost forever. When the final notes faded, she opened her eyes to find tears streaming down Theo's face. "That was," he began, but words failed him. Lyra turned fully toward him, her own eyes luminous with emotion. "You gave me back my voice." "No," Theo said, stepping closer. "I just helped you find a new way to use it. The music was always yours." The space between them seemed charged with unspoken feelings, a tension as delicate and powerful as the crystal's resonance. Lyra reached up with both hands, flesh and metal, to touch his face, marveling at how natural the gesture felt. "On Nebulon 7, she said softly, "we believe that when 2 souls create something beautiful together, they become forever connected." Theo's hands found her waist, drawing her closer. "On Earth we have similar beliefs," he whispered. Their lips met in a kiss that crossed the boundaries of worlds. Gentle at first, then deepening with shared emotion that had grown through weeks of collaboration and understanding. Later, as they lay together in the ambient glow of the crystal harp, Theo traced the patterns of light across Lyra's purple skin. Her prosthetic hand rested comfortably on his chest, the sensors transmitting the sensation of his heartbeat. "I've been thinking," he murmured. "The conservatory's annual eclipse concert is next month. You could perform?" Lyra stiffened slightly. "I'm not sure they would welcome me back." "Then we make them welcome you," Theo said, his voice holding a conviction that made her believe it possible. "Show them what they've been missing." Celestial Duet. The Grand Conservatory of Nebulon 7 was filled to capacity, Its crystalline dome opened to the night sky where the larger moon was beginning its transit across the face of the nearest sun, the celestial event for which the annual concert was named. The audience murmured in anticipation, programs glowing with the name that had shocked the musical community. Lyra Vox, returning after her year-long absence. Backstage, Lyra adjusted the settings on her prosthetic, which Theo had modified with an iridescent finish that complemented her performance attire, a flowing garment that caught and reflected light like the surface of a living crystal. "The director's watching you," Theo observed, nodding toward where Director Venn stood with several conservatory officials, their collective gaze fixed on Lyra's prosthetic hand. "Let them watch," Lyra said, though her voice betrayed a hint of nervousness. "They'll listen soon enough." When her name was announced, a hush fell over the audience. Lyra stepped onto the stage, the spotlight illuminating her as she approached the crystal harp, larger than her own, with complexity that would challenge even the most skilled performer with two natural hands. She positioned herself, closed her eyes, and began. The composition, titled Binary Stars, began softly, a questioning melody that spoke of loss and uncertainty. As it progressed, a second theme emerged, different in tone and texture, yet harmonizing perfectly with the first. The two musical lines circled each other, sometimes merging, sometimes moving apart, but always in gravitational pull toward one another. In the audience, Theo watched as Lyra's hands moved across the crystal with perfect synchronicity, flesh and metal working as one. The music spoke volumes about their journey together, the initial doubt, the gradual trust, the eventual harmony they had found across the divide of their different worlds. The final movement built toward a crescendo that coincided with the exact moment of eclipse. As darkness briefly fell across the conservatory, Lyra's music reached its peak, a celebration of connection found in unlikeliest circumstances, of wholeness discovered through shared creation. When the final note faded, there was a moment of profound silence. Then the audience erupted in applause that seemed to shake the very crystal of the dome. Director Venn was the first to rise for the standing ovation, his four eyes wide with amazement. Afterward, as admirers surrounded her, Lyra searched for and found Theo's eyes across the room. He stood apart, allowing her this moment of triumph, but his smile held all the pride and love that had grown between them. Later that night, they stood on the observation deck of the conservatory, watching the moons trace their paths across the star-filled sky. "The Interstellar Research Division has offered me a permanent position here," Theo said, his fingers intertwined with Lyra's prosthetic ones. "They want me to continue developing neural interfaces using what we learned together as a foundation." Lyra turned to face him, her expression thoughtful. "And the Earth Symphony has invited me to be a guest performer next season. They're fascinated by the crystal harp." "So we have options," Theo said, drawing her closer. "We have bridges," Lyra corrected, resting her head against his shoulder. "Between worlds, between technologies, between what was lost and what can be found." Above them, the stars of two distant systems shone, one housing Earth, one Nebulon 7. Between those points of light stretched the vast tapestry of space, no longer a void that separated them but a canvas across which their shared music could travel. "Wherever we go next," Theo whispered, "we go together." Lyra's answer was to raise her prosthetic hand, letting the starlight catch and dance across its surface, no longer a symbol of what she had lost but of everything she had gained.